Welcome back to MMA Breakdowns and Bets. As always, I'm Santino DeFranco, and with me is shirtless Brandan. You can find him on IG as another island boy. Uh,
That's who I am in my
why?
heart. My boxing is about equal level to them as well.
Oh man, the island boy meme, not even a meme, a video going around with them boxing. So I showed that to our dear friend Camuela, who all of you out there in our MMA bets and breakdowns land love. You guys love Camuela, especially after his last performance and his win. I know you guys all won a lot of money there, but I showed that to him earlier, and he brought up a good question: Are they trolling us? Do you think they're trolling, or are they just retarded?
Yeah, I think it's what do you say? The latter? I think it's the latter. But my question, the question I want to pose, are they like the rest of the island boys? Was that all the cardio that they had? Just that couple 15 seconds?
What what is with islanders, regardless of the island, Pacific Island, Hawaiian Island? You could be in Crete in the Mediterranean, and man, your cardio is gone after like 38
It
seconds.
really is. It really is bizarre. Like these kind of trends in MMA, like Hawaiians, specifically Hawaiians, have horrible cardio, and Samoans have the most insane chins ever, and like certain regions just have like crazy things about them. Uh, like even
Genetic factors.
well, even the Russians, like how they stand to strike, like it's always this weird, like kind of bouncy, looks horrible, but then it's kind of effective. Like even the striking Russians, and it's like every region has something different, and it's bizarre, like characteristics.
There's a book. It's called the Sports Gene. I forget who wrote it. I read it, a couple years ago, and they actually talk about a lot of those things. One of the things they talk about is, they talk about I think he was a Norwegian skier who they thought was blood doping because he'd taken like years and years and years off, came back and placed, I think it was third or second in the Olympics at cross country skiing, which was just insane. But they said when you meet this guy, when you talk with him, he's just red. His nose is red. His face is red. He's like just has a red tinge to him. And then his daughters have that same red tinge, and he ended up having more blood platelets just because of high iron content in his body than normal humans. And the other one they talk about the two, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this, is they talk about the Kenyan runners. I mean, if you look at Kenyans, I mean, like they're winning every marathon, every long distance race in
I
the
actually
world.
listened to
But it's
the Radio Lab podcast about that.
oh, do they talk about that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I could be making that up, but I'm pretty sure.
But it's not only Kenyans, it's like this very specific region of
Yeah.
Kenya that they all come from. And then on the other side of that, you've got the Jamaican sprinters. I mean, Jamaican sprinters have just been killing it for the last 20 years ish. And not only are they all from Jamaica, but they're from this little mountain town on this like rim up there in Jamaica where you can kind of trace all of their lineage back to. So really interesting how just these tight knit genetic communities, and it
Well,
doesn't seem like it's long term, like they're going on forever. It's like these 10, 20-year stints, and then it kind of cycles to the next genetic
Well,
trend.
even look at Dagestan. Who was it that went to Dagestan? Was it Vice that went with? God, I can't remember. One of the Russians that's in the UFC, decent, fine. They went with them to Dagestan. And how small is that place? Have you seen it? It's tiny.
It's tiny. It's tiny. It's a little tiny Russian caucus. It's like,
Mountain town, poor, and all they do is wrestle.
yeah.
Why is that one
And
place?
yeah, it's crazy. And you see a lot of these, not only a lot of the other Russian wrestlers, but you see like a lot of the Chechnyan, the Bulgarian, the Romanian, these other wrestlers, the people who are, and I'm just not like those regions, not necessarily those countries, but that kind of, region is a lot of the wrestlers who are winning the worlds and placing in the worlds, placing in the Olympics are like the number 2 Dagestan who didn't make it, and so they defect and they go, get nationality other places, and then
Wow.
they ended up making it. So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how those things work
Even
out,
on a micro
in
level, and I
Dagestan.
wonder if it's like how. Sorry, guys, we're going off a little bit, but I wonder how much of this is like also like upbringing, like on a really, really micro level, like wrestling in Arizona for the most part is not great. The best guy that we put out in a long time is Roman Bravo Young, who just won another national title. He's a phenomenal wrestler. And in high school, he wrestled at Sunnyside. And Sunnyside is nationally known a little bit. Not that Arizona wrestling is, the most phenomenal thing ever. Like you'll take Pennsylvania, California, New Jersey, New York over Arizona every single day of the week. But they have the record for the most consecutive dual meets won in the country. It's like 500 or 600, 700 consecutive dual meets won. It's ridiculous. And they dominate Arizona wrestling, or at least they had, when I used to wrestle, they had
They
always
did, yeah, back in
dominated.
the day.
It's crazy. And it's like, well, what is it? It's not like it's a poor part of Tucson, Arizona. And all these kids are amazing wrestlers. Now, I know they do a little bit of recruiting and stuff like that, but just a micro level, it's like that may be all that they have. They don't get to go to the park on weekends. Like they go wrestle instead. And so just really interesting.
Yeah, check out that book, the Gene or the Sports Gene. I forget the author. I'll put it in the show notes when I remember it. But definitely a solid one. On another note, just since you brought up Arizona wrestling, I mean, I moved to Arizona in 2000, and wrestling was garbage. It was always garbage. I mean, you had Angel Cejudo and Henry Cejudo,
Who?
who yeah, who were phenomenal. Of course, Henry he won 2 state championships here in Arizona. Then he did his junior and senior year up in Colorado, and he won actually up there. But Angel I think he was 156-0, and would go to these national tournaments and just wreck shop. It was kind of wild. But just as a whole, Arizona wrestling was really bad back in the day, and now they are getting significantly better. We've got Arizona State, we've got a big MMA community. The wrestling community as a whole is so much better. So it's actually interesting just to see how much better Arizona wrestling has gotten in the last 5 to 10 years.
But where wrestling has really failed is weirdly in MMA now. It's to me, it's been bizarre like this year and seeing this is how little the wrestling has actually been effective in MMA. Like people disregard it altogether. And like I went for weeks and weeks saying jujitsu was fake, just messing around. And now I'm almost thinking like wrestling's fake. Like these guys who are just dedicated wrestlers are constantly losing. I think the judging criteria is changing things a little bit too, but people are getting so good in MMA at figuring out the defense for the wrestling and scoring points off the wrestling. It's weird how that transition has come, where the old days is one secured takedown and you win. It's not like that anymore. And you have so much time in a round to change positions and get up and figure it out. It is just such a crazy shift to me.
I think you're 100% right, and I think the thing is traditional wrestling, high school, collegiate wrestling, freestyle wrestling. It's based off a point system, and it's a lot of energy to get those points. It's a lot of energy to get those takedowns. It is so easy in MMA to get back up. It doesn't matter if you give up your back. It doesn't matter if you give up position. The only thing you're trying to not do is give up a rear naked choke
That's it.
in the transition of
Because
getting
what
back
other
up.
submissions work on a consistent basis? I mean, you can tell me you're fucking Hail Mary, Paul Craig, but on a consistent basis, what other things work? It used to be you'd always say this, it's rear naked choke and a guillotine. Well, how often do we see people getting guillotined these days? Almost never. Almost never.
Yeah, it's not. You're right. It's not even a guillotine anymore. It's a rear naked choke. Generally, when somebody's really fresh, a minute in, and it's just quick, dynamic movement, or really tired, they're worn out, they're broken down, or they get hurt.
That's it.
Um,
Other than that, guess what works? It's beating people up, punching them, and then they're going to give you their neck because they want to get out of there. And that has been the big cheat code to MMA and kind of the evolution. I really think is weirdly, guys. It's punching. Believe it or not, it's punching is the evolution.
well, it's hanging on people and punching. It's controlling. It's watching these dags, watching
Khabib, that's the only one I ever want to talk
Khabib,
about because he was the only one to do it correctly always. And Makachev is phenomenal
Hamza.
too. I don't even think so. I think his wrestling is complete amateur compared to not amateur, but it's completely different than Khabib's. He still shoots from far away. I mean, he does a lot of different things. Khabib's the only one that hangs on people like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Makachev, you've got Khabib, but see, Hamza was actually a better freestyle, like an actual traditional
And
wrestler
that's what I'm
than.
saying, though. It's different.
Yep, it definitely is. But you know who's doing it really well right now? I think some of the best in the game right now is
Say
that
it.
the Philly
Sean
guys,
Brady.
the
He's
Philly,
my GOAT.
Sean Brady, Sabatini.
Dude, he
Those
is
guys
amazing.
are just
Sabatini is amazing. You guys out there, right? I've trained with a lot of jujitsu guys, world champion guys. Uh, Guys, I don't want to hear like jujitsu stuff. Like Leo Santos just got choked up by Clay Guida. Do you think Clay Guida is a world champion jujitsu player? Absolutely not. Right now, you're right. It's the Daniel Gracie guys. Weirdly Jeremiah Wells. I don't want to throw him in there, but Sean Brady and the energy it takes to get people down and what they're doing right now. It's the most amazing in the game. I did see somebody not too long ago, I can't remember who it is, who has amazing jujitsu also. And so on this card that's coming up, we're going to see good jujitsu and we're going to see bad jujitsu, at least what I deem. And I think we're pretty critical of jujitsu. I think we like what works. We don't like Hail Mary stuff, and we can see it from a mile away if you're just tossing stuff up with no rhyme or reason. So this is kind of a cool card to me because I think we have both ends of the spectrum.
yeah, I agree. And we are critical about jujitsu because we're jujitsu guys. And so we understand, like, look,
And
if
MMA
I am in a
guys. It's not just jujitsu because just jujitsu guys, people are like, oh, that's great. But we're jujitsu and MMA, and hey, what works and what win fights, guys.
exactly 100%. And I love jujitsu. Let me roll around in a class and I'll stay on the bottom all day long and throw arm bars and triangles. Uh, you show me the guy with the best armbar and triangle in the game, and I'll say, okay, get back up and get to your feet and try and get on top. Like,
Do you remember? Do you remember when I first came to you when I was 18?
marginally.
Okay, so I'll just tell this story, just really quick one. So I was the baddest blue belt on earth. I was ranked world number one in gi and no gi. I had, I won Pan Ams. I was the shit. I was the coolest kid alive. I was jiu-jitsu playboy, right? And that was also back in the day before the Brazilians could get visas too. So take that with a grain of salt, whatever. But um, I came in and I met this stinky purple belt with a brown gi. It was supposed to be white, torn to shreds. And I'm thinking, I am going to outclass this guy. He doesn't know what he's in for with me. And I was still in my guard pulling, arm bars. That's all I ever did. This guy beat the hell out of me over and over and over again, maybe for a couple years, beat the hell out of me. He couldn't even win like a local tournament, let alone national tournaments or world tournaments. Never was ranked in the I. They couldn't even say his name, and that was Johnny Mack, who doesn't fight anymore, really didn't win many fights even when I was there, and he beat the hell out of me. And what did he do? He was just gritty and grimy and did the stuff that works in MMA. He could wrestle a little bit and was just game as they come. And I went, oh wait, this jujitsu stuff traditionally, as I've been taught and I've always done and what's worked for me, it doesn't really work, at least not in this context.
Yep. He was gritty, good cardio, and fought for top position.
That's it.
And that will win you a lot of MMA fights.
You know what? Okay. I want to say this. Jeff Molina. Jeff Molina beat AQ. Right? Amazing fight. I was there live for that one. I I think Jeff Molina has skills, but he may be the least athletic and least physically gifted 25er in the history of the UFC. I mean, he's got no physical gifts. He looks like a frail child. And I'm not hating on him. He's a cool guy. Like, he's really active, everything like that. But Jeff Molina is going to win so many freaking fights based on fight IQ and cardio. The kid just doesn't make mistakes. And we're actually, we're going to see one of his opponents here who's the complete opposite. He's all flash, all fast twitch muscle, and just continues to make mistakes. Molina will probably hit top 10, top 15 just on cardio and fight IQ. Things being where they need to be when they need to be there. He's just a smart kid.
And he's an undersized fighter.
That's what I
Jeff
mean. He's
Molina
so
looks
small.
tiny. Now, we're talking about him, and we'll get into this fight later, but we're talking about fight IQ. And we've got Daniel Da Silva and Francisco Figueiredo. And this is the best example of who does the least dumb shit, who
Yes.
will win this fight. Like, it's unreal how important fight IQ is. And you get these two guys, and we'll talk about it a little bit, more in depth later, who are somewhat equal in striking and jiu-jitsu prowess. Neither of them are great wrestlers. One of them
But
has
the
better
edge here,
cardio than
yeah.
the other one.
But the edge, there's
But
two edges
man,
here, and they're the two most important edges.
yes, and cardio and who does more or less dumb shit in a fight. And wow, like, if you guys want, this is the fight IQ that we're talking about. You guys watch this fight, see who does less dumb shit, and there's your winner right there.
That was
So,
the easiest one
well,
for
let's
me to
get
call
into
last time. Okay, yeah, let's get it. Let's get it.
Yeah, I mean, let's get into this. But before we do, you guys, make sure you check out our Patreon. We have been killing it lately. Last week, I think the only thing that I got wrong was Jourdain and Venata. I was 100% wrong there. And I thought it was going to go over 1.5 rounds. All of the other picks I put on our Patreon, I killed, I won. Dogs, overs, unders, favorites, doesn't matter, killed it. The week before, I think I hit 8 out of 8 love 'em picks. Check it out, you guys. Brandon's regional scene, LFA, CFFC, Fury FC, BKFC, Bellator, all of those picks are on there and breakdowns as well. And also, you guys, this episode is brought to you by mybookie.ag. So go check out MyBookie, get a 50% deposit bonus. You put in $1,000, they give you an extra $500 on top of it. Use code MMAPicks50. Sign up. That will really help us out. If you guys like the show and if you guys like to bet, do that because that will really, really, really help us out by you guys going and signing up. Other than that, let's get into it. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. This is a fun card. Um, I like it. First fight up, we've got Tatsuro, Taira, and Carlos Candelario. And we know Candelario from Contender. He fought on Contender. He fought Altamirano. I think he's the first guy to lose a fight on Contender Series that Dana White gave the a contract to as well because Dana White thought that he won. On the other side, we've got Taira, who's undefeated, 10-0 as a pro. What is he as an amateur? He's like, gosh, what is that? 3-6-9-ish and 0 as an amateur. Really good jujitsu. Uh, Relatively decent striker, but kind of unknown to the American fans. Brandon, why don't you talk about this one first? Because I always go first for like the first 20 of them. And then I'm like, oh, why don't you lead on this one?
Always the bum fights, and you know me when I'm watching tape, I always start bottom to top. That's always how I've done it, and so I get most in depth, and I'm like the most secure with the bottom ones. And then by the time we get to the top, you're like, you go ahead, and I'm like, spent 10 minutes on
Haven't
this
watched
one,
tape on this guy in
and
6
watched,
years.
yeah. So no, this one actually reminds me of a fight that was not too long ago. This reminds me of Fletcher versus Semmelsberger, and what I mean by that is, first of all, I couldn't believe the odds. I couldn't believe that that Tatsuro is the favorite, and by a pretty healthy margin. He's pretty decent favorite. I couldn't believe that. First of all, age. Second of all, coming from what is he? Japan. Uh, yeah, coming from Japan. Those are two factors that have not really played well in the UFC, right? Especially a kid who's a couple time Contender Series vet. He's been around. He's training at with Tyson. What is it? What's the name? Tyson? What? Your friend?
I don't know who's.
The coach.
Oh, Chartier with
Yes.
Rob Font.
Yes, he's training with Rob Font and all those boys. So it was just really interesting to me to find that this kid was a big favorite over Candelario, because I don't think the fight's going to play out that way. I think the fight is going to play out much closer than what the odds would show. Um, the reason I said this reminds me of Fletcher and Semmelsberger, because when you watch Fletcher's tape, there was nothing not to like. There really was nothing not to like. He beat Cans, fine, whatever. He beat low level competition, but he beat them exactly how he was supposed to. He didn't really show any chinks in the armor. It's not like he got tired. He wasn't over swinging. He wasn't doing anything that made you go, man, this guy sucks, or here's the easy edge. And what did we see in that fight? Is it was played out a very, very close fight between Fletcher and Semmelsberger, right? The eye test is, I think he got a little bit tired and Semmelsberger cardio machine took over, but there was nothing not to like. And with Tatsuro, that's the same thing. Like, I watched all the fights, the 4 fights that are available to me. What I like about him, first of all, he's tall. He's 5'7". He's same height as me, which is a big flyweight. That's a big, tall flyweight. He's extremely athletic, man. He moves so well. He's long, and he manages range really well. I heard some people saying that he gets hit a lot. Well, he gets hit when people are throwing weird loopy bombs and rushing in. And I don't really think that's what you get offered with Candelario. Candelario is much more technical, or at least tries to be technical. He's a lot slower than some of those guys, and he's a lot bigger than some of those guys. So I don't think that that Tatsuro is going to get tagged up the way that he did in a couple fights. Not like he was hurt or much happened. Now, the other thing too is his jiu-jitsu is excellent. I really think it's excellent. I really think it's legitimately excellent. You and I can watch 2 minutes of jujitsu and we just can see where the hips are in position, if he's making the right fundamental decisions. And I think this kid is solid, man. I think his jujitsu is actually kind of beautiful to watch. The one time I really wanted to tear him up was he gave up the back to go for a triangle, and I wanted to tear him up, but watching the triangle, it was beautiful. It was locked in. He had everything secure. Everything was in the correct place. Like it's really hard to lock him down because he knew what he had when he had it. I think the kid's good. I think the kid's really good. I absolutely think he could win here. What he lacks to me is the traditional wrestling. He's shooting from so far away and he's very, very fast. But the second that he gets stopped out, he backs right out. He doesn't have that cage wrestling, and that's something that's really, really important that we talked about. The thing that I like about Candelario, I think his striking is overrated. People say, "Oh, he's a Golden Gloves champion." Guys, what does that really mean? It means nothing. Um, Watch his striking. I don't think it's amazing. I really don't. It's kind of lazy, slow, and sloppy, but he is a grinder. He will put you on the fence. He will take you down over and over again. I think he's got solid jiu-jitsu, although a little different. Um, I think we need a lot more data on Tatsuro, especially how he deals with Americans in the UFC. To me, this is Candelario or pass. I think the over is actually going to be a great, great spot in this because of the way that Tatsuro swings. I don't think he does a lot of damage on the feet. I think Candelario's tough, and he's got at least a couple rounds of cardio. I like the over. I think that's the best play in this one.
Interesting on the over, 'cause I'll get to my thoughts on the bet in a little bit. Um, you hit it for the most part. I mean, you know, Tatsuro has a really good, not only manages range well, but he's got a really good stiff right hand, a long, stiff right hand that he lands. He's very tentative with it for a while. He's very tentative. He's very inactive. He almost reminds me, who's the guy Dan Moret fought in Bellator?
Spike Carlisle.
Um, no, Gaito
Oh,
Yamauchi.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's almost like him.
Goiti.
Very, yeah, Goiti. Very just inactive, doesn't do a lot, but very effective with his movements when he does. And his wrestling's not great. This is Tatsuro that we're talking about. It's not bad, but what he did well a couple of times is shoot in and immediately slide to the back, and he understands where he's good at. The issue with me, you said it, was the cage wrestling. I don't know. Even his traditional wrestling, I don't think is bad. It's his cage wrestling. If you watch all the tape on him that you can find, he is in cages, not cage wrestling, not putting people on the fence, not that kind of seems like a Japanese MO. And I don't understand why the Japanese fighters aren't. I mean, maybe they legitimately just don't have cages in their gyms. They're in Tokyo. I'm assuming a lot of them, they're tiny. So maybe they're just working out in the open. I don't know. But they're fighting in a cage, and they just don't seem to have that concept of cage grappling. The other thing with Tatsuro that kind of weirds me out a little bit is he doesn't seem like he likes to get hit. And I don't mean that nobody likes to get hit,
It's the
but
hair.
except for Sean. Yes. Is he doesn't absorb it well, and he kind of looks frazzled. And Candelario will go in, and I actually think he will loop some stuff and throw some not unorthodox stuff. It's not like Candelario is going to throw spinning attacks, but I think Candelario is going to throw body, head, like hooks and overhands and kind of, and Tatsuro doesn't seem to absorb that stuff well. Tatsuro is by far the cleaner grappler and by far the cleaner submission guy. Candelario shoots with his head on the outside so much. We saw it with Altamirano where he hit head on the outside single, dumped him again and again and again. I don't know that you want to do that with Tatsuro because you're throwing yourself in a guillotine, possibly give up your back. Somebody butt drags you, comes out the back. Um, I think this one, I I just don't know. I haven't seen Tatsuro fight anybody. The guys who he's beaten are 38-year-old guys with 40 fights who seem washed up. So it's like, he choked out Maeda in under a minute, who's 38, 39 years old. Candelario, though, I like Tyson Chartier. I think his guys are good. He does not have a huge stable, which means he can give really good attention to those guys. We saw it with Calvin Cater. Beautiful game plan against Chikadze. And we even saw it a little bit with Rob Font and Jose Aldo. Aldo just had Rob Font's number, but Font came out switching stances a lot, which really made it harder for Aldo to kick. I really like their coaching. I think Tatsuro is the cleaner, younger, better fighter who should win, but we haven't seen him tested.
We
And
haven't seen
so
him on his
you were
back.
saying we haven't seen him on his back a lot either. Exactly.
Does
So,
he fall in love with his jujitsu too much? And that's the thing I hate is people who think and know how good their jujitsu is. That's almost like the death touch.
yep. I think that if you want to bet this fight, and I'm going to sit this one out, there's too many unknowns because there are some spots on this card that I love. I say you bet Tatsuro uh, early or Tatsuro by submission or finish or inside the distance, or you bet Candelario by decision. I think those are the only two. If you like Candelario, sweeten that up by Candelario by decision. If you like Tatsuro at minus 200, 220, whatever he's at, you go inside the distance with him. I think those are the only two plays. I'm not sold on either. I like Candelario. I like his toughness. Stylistically, I don't like how he puts his head on the outside on that single
He's
leg
so
against a really good
slow.
grappler.
He's just so
Yeah, exactly.
slow.
And he's slow. Stylistically, I don't know. I mean, Altamirano had a lot of moments in that, and I thought Candelario won easily. I think Tatsuro is infinitely better than Candelario or Altamirano. I'm sorry, and and Tatsuro should win. You guys, Tatsuro should win. He absolutely should win. He's a favorite. He should win this. I'm not trusting a undersized guy from Japan who we don't know if he can cage wrestle for his first time in the UFC. Maybe he loses this, moves to ATT, moves to alpha male, moves to fight ready, whatever, and then learns how to cage
Ooh,
wrestle.
I would love a little
That's
Asian at fight ready.
right. So we've got a crew of them right now. We've just had AQ one and Haley won 2 first round KOs in 2 weeks.
Mongolia. All right.
All right. Next up. What do we have? Oh, we have Gina Mazany and Shanna Young. And a lot of times we'll go back and forth on this, but you guys, you know me at this point. I'm an asshole. And I told Brandan there's one fight on this card that I didn't tape. And this is it. And I looked at these two, and let's see, Shanna Young is 7-4 and Mazany 7-5. And I was going through the records and I thought, well, I have zero interest in this at all. I'm assuming Brandan will tape it because I'm not spending time here. What do you got, B?
This is probably. Oh man, I hate to say this. Okay. Let me get ready. This is probably my favorite spot on the card. Uh, if I'm being very, very honest. Um, this is an easy one. Honestly, probably the worst bet I've ever made in my entire life is I bet Shayna Young against Egger. That was the worst bet of my entire life. I guess I thought that Shayna was a lot tougher and at least swings wild bombs, and that maybe she would catch Egger over the top. And I went against my own cardinal rule where I'm betting on something to happen instead of just betting on the person that's better overall. And man, I looked like an idiot on that one. She offered nothing. But here's the reason this is my favorite spot. Shayna Young standing has 3 left feet. She just is all over the place. She's clunky. She does almost nothing correctly standing. The best thing that she could hope for would just be to sling some bombs up there, right? Um, Now, let me see. The reason that I like this one, okay, we look at Gina Mazany. She's gotten infinitely better, I think, since moving over with Kraus and dating Tim Elliott and all this stuff. I think she's actually her wrestling to me is really, really impressive. For women's MMA, it is pretty nice. She actually utilizes the trips, just like we were talking with the Philly boys. She uses trips really, really well. She's physically just an ogre. She's so strong. But the reason that I love Mazany here, people want to get mad at her about the last fight where she was a huge favorite over Priscilla. Okay, she dominated the first half of that, and then a ref stand up, and she was dog tired and got finished. Right? How often are you going to have to count on a ref stand up? Right? That happens so rarely, especially in the UFC. The other thing too is Priscilla's strong. Priscilla's a big, strong girl. She swings hard. I don't think Shayna offers that. And The other thing, Priscilla presses. Priscilla's always pressing. That is going to tire somebody out. When they're having to just keep somebody off them, Priscilla walks forward with no hesitation. But Shayna's not that same person. She doesn't have the striking. She doesn't have the technique. She doesn't have the pressure. Um, but the biggest thing is when she was taken down by Egger, she's instantly going for heel hooks and she's content playing guard. Not once did she ever try to get up. I think, man, I like Gina Mazany maybe by decision. I think Shayna can maybe do enough just to keep her off her. But one takedown each round, I think, is all it's going to take. I actually think Mazany can piece her up on the feet too. Just bigger, stronger, more physical. I don't think she's going to gas here, guys. One takedown early, and she gets another 5 minutes to rest and then do it again. Mazany to me is probably my favorite piece this week.
I agree 100%, 100% on everything you said. I can't even imagine us agreeing this much on any other fight ever.
All right, I'll take this one. All right.
All right. I don't even know why I pulled up their records on that one. That was, Um, all right. Next up, we've got Mike Breeden and Natan Levy. And we saw Breeden come in short notice against Alex Hernandez. I forget who Hernandez was supposed to fight, but he knocked Breeden out quickly, fiercely. That was a wrap. Um, Breeden's a striker. He's at Glory MMA with James Krause. Likes body work. Tough guy. Moves forward. Goes. His record, Breeden's record is 10-4. On the other side of that, we have Natan Levy, the Zohan. Right? Isn't that his nickname, the Zohan? Isn't that
I don't know. I try to avoid him.
okay? He's 6-1. Lost his one on the Contender Series. Lost his debut to Rafa Garcia. Breeden here is a pressure fighter. He's a pressure fighter. He's a pressure fighter. He's in your face. He's going. He's swinging. Kind of, I wouldn't say he's a smooth, clean, technical striker. He's a walk forward, not even necessarily in a stance, just like going. He's well rounded. You know, he's. I don't mean like he's phenomenal everywhere. I mean like it's not like there's some huge gaping holes in his game, um, but he's definitely a striker. On the other side of that, you have Natan Levy, who you would say is a submission specialist, but he's not like some world beater jiu-jitsu guy. Striking is a little awkward, but he throws. Cardio was a little suspect in his debut, but he fought Rafa
Oh my
Garcia.
God, what a pace that was. That was bananas.
And I said this on the last week's pod, the week before that when Rafa fought. I like Rafa. I think he does everything well. His cardio is good. I don't know that he's ever going to be a world champion, but man, I like him. I called him to win in the last fight.
I've made money on every Rafa fight because I bet against him against Nasrat. He's just not as good as Nasrat, same style. And then every other fight, he good takedowns, good striking. He's game and makes good decisions and got good cardio. He breaks people.
Yeah. And I think he's just getting better. I like him, so Natan losing to him by decision, it's not the worst thing.
Nope.
And he even took Rafa down a couple
He
times.
looked better in that fight than I thought he was going to.
Yes, he legitimately did. And he had moments. He's fast, he's athletic, he's dynamic. Breeden on the other side of this, I've heard, I don't remember if it's UFC announcers or what, or just watching tape, but somebody was like, man, when he comes in, he pressures, he goes high low and mixes it up and body head and he's in the pocket going. And I was like, okay, where is it? Where is it? And I think all Natan Levy needs is one takedown here, and I think he can win this fight. I think he's good enough standing. He's dynamic enough. He's athletic enough. He's fast enough. I think he definitely gassed more than he would have because it was his UFC debut and the pace that Rafa Garcia put on him. I'm not huge on Natan Levy, but I think he easily wins this fight. I'm going to refresh my odds really quickly because these things change all the damn time. And let me see Natan Levy. Natan Levy
Minus
is
200.
minus 200. Mike Breeden is plus 160. Honestly, I think that's exactly where. Honestly, I think Natan Levy should actually be a little bit higher of an odd. And it's weird for me to say I like the syndicate guy over the James Krause MMA Glory guy. But here in Breeden, and you got to remember, you guys, like gyms sometimes matter and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're so big, and you just get enough guys in there, and they win on the local scene that he's going to get in on all the other clout of James Krause and all of the success of his guys. Plus, they have a good relationship with the management company Iridium, gets them all in. On the and I think Natan Levy's actually an Iridium guy as well, but. Um, I think this is a no-brainer. Natan Levy or not.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I was very very critical last time Natan Levy fought. Obviously, Rafa Garcia. I think he's at the time completely overrated. Right? He was completely overrated. He was 6-0. Everyone was saying he's the second coming and all this stuff. I was like, this guy's not as good as people think that he is. He's just not. He really really is not. And then weirdly, and I hate finding myself back in this, but then I flip to this fight in this matchup, and I love him here. Like man, I don't know if it's enough for me to pull the trigger on it. I guess I would say a lean, but I really think he gets it done here. I can't unsee Mike Breeden fighting an FAC, which is James Krause's promotion. They're all layup, tee up fights. It's the easiest ones ever. I cannot unsee him almost getting armbarred. Literally, if there was 3 more seconds in the round, he would have got submitted by a 40-year-old Nick Compton. I cannot unsee that. That was a fish fight. The fact that it even went decision. Guys, I've said this before. It's okay to fight cans, but you need to beat them as such. You beat them as such. First round, second round finish, any way that you want to. If you need to get a couple rounds of experience, that's fine. But going to a decision with a 40-year-old who is now 12-10 in your hometown promotion, hosted by your coach, you got to get the finish, and you can't be almost getting submitted at the end of the first. And that's Natan Levy's whole claim to fame is his grappling. So I'm with you. One takedown. I think it's probably Natan Levy by decision is what I would say. But I think Natan Levy can probably hurt him on the feet too, just chucking those wild bombs into a takedown. And you're right. I hate betting on a syndicate fighter. I just think they're not very well coached and honestly horrible game planning. But I think Natan showed enough game and enough fight, uh, I think, to beat Breeden, who I don't think is UFC quality.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he washes out after this. He got in last minute, and I think I don't know that he'll make it to the 4 fights on his contract.
All
All
right.
right, next up we've got Yohan. Shit, Lainesse, We have Yohan from Canada against Gabe Green. I can say Gabe Green, and what I find funny is it's like a running joke of me saying these names. How would you say that?
Yeah, there's a lot of
Lainesse,
talk out of people who aren't going to say, who don't have to say it. They can just think it in their head.
yeah, Lionessa, Leonosa. I don't know.
So Amanda Nunes
Brandon,
is fighting.
let's hear your thoughts on this one at first. Um, Before we get to that, Yohan is 8-0. I think he might have been undefeated as nope, he was 1-1 as an amateur. 8-0. He is how many years old? 29 years old. Gabe Green is 10-3, 28 years old. And yeah, let's hear your thoughts on these.
Man, I was so back and forth on this fight. Yohan haunts my dreams. I mean, I had a huge bet on Justin Burlinson, who I love. I love me some Justin Burlinson. Mike Bisping was so excited. Bisping couldn't even hold back his bias in that Contender Series fight. He just loved Burlinson so much. And then to see what Yohan did to Burlinson, I think about it to this day. I mean, I thought he killed the guy. Luckily, he's still fighting and he just won, but almost got killed again. Uh, Man, Yohan is he's there. Yohan's there. He's got cardio problems. We've seen that in every fight. 1 round in, 2 rounds in, he's throwing such big bombs that if he doesn't get it, he gasses pretty decently. But even in the fight before the UFC, Evan Cuts, or before Contender Series, he wore out Evan Cutts too. That pressure and that, that kind of grind that he was putting was wearing out Evan Cutts, who they were saying was a cardio machine. So what's the real answer? Is it just a hard style of fighting? Is it he's actually got cardio problems? I think the truth is somewhere in between there. I think his striking has looked sloppy at times, but man, he throws bricks and they're clean and they're straight. Gabe Green, I actually hate his striking. I hate it. He looks the part, he moves the part, but if you watch some of his old film, he's herky jerky. He looks like a complete fish. Now he's kind of the better version of how he used to look. But I think he's always moving when he's throwing punches. So nothing is actually solid. And you don't really see many knockouts at the upper levels from him. He's herky jerky, off balance when he's throwing. I don't want to pick a winner in this fight because everything would tell me it's going to be Gabe Green, right? Cardio, fight IQ. I think the wrestling is probably going to go to Gabe Green also. So that wisdom would tell me Gabe Green. My favorite play here is actually over the over. The over 1.5 is where the line is set on this one. I think Gabe Green has a good enough chin and an awkward enough style to avoid Yohan for a round and a half. I think Yohan's tough enough to last for a round and a half, and I don't think Gabe has much power just because of how he throws his punches. I think the wrestling could neutralize each other and the jiu-jitsu could neutralize each other. So for me, it's a no touch as far as a winner. I would lean Gabe Green. Over 1.5 is my bet on this one.
Okay. I Man, Johan's an awkward striker. He looks like just his body looks like it's disconnected from itself. Like he has extra joints in all of his joints and they're just not they don't line up as he's throwing. Like it's like his head is moving and his body is moving just slightly offline, off rhythm from his punches. His best weapon is his left hook. He will throw a He'll finish combos with his left hook and land it really well, and he'll use his left hook offensively as a counter when he check hooks. People come in, throws a good check hook, or he'll lead with it and fire it. He pressures well. Um, I've heard some announcers talking about his wrestling that I don't think is very good at all. I
No.
think it's out in the open shooting. I mean, on the fights I saw, that I was not very impressed with his wrestling. I was less impressed with his cage wrestling, and honestly, with the striking, I mean, this sounds nuts. I'm not overly impressed with it, but the dude has dynamite in his hands.
He does.
If he lands that, he lands it, he lands it, he lands it. Let's take a look at his record really quickly. 0-0, 0-1, 1-0, 2-0. He did beat a guy who's 4-2, and he did beat a guy who is 4-0. All right. Then, of course, Evan Cutts, who was just horribly gassed out in that. Then
I couldn't stand the
Justin
announcer saying he's the
Burlington.
cardio machine. He's going to wear him out. He says the cardio machine. He gassed
Yep,
quicker than Yohan get gassed.
he did. And this almost reminds me of, on this side of it, I don't mean the whole fight, but this side of it is our guy Pete Rodriguez, who's knocking people out like crazy, but at the lower levels. And then he runs into a Jack Dela and is just stopped in his
But is
tracks.
Gabe Green
And
Jack Dela?
no, that's what I said. I said on the Johan side, he
Yeah.
reminds me of Rodriguez. Um, Gabe Green is no freaking Jack Dela. But if you look at him in his return fight with against D-Rod, he looked stiff. He looked herky-jerky. That low kick, he was really weird. They said he had a very long layoff, 2 or 3 years. He had some injuries. But then if you look at him in his following fight, was it Phil Rowe?
Yeah.
Phil Rowe. I thought he looked good there. I thought his low kick is a little clunky, but effective. He rolled punches well. He fought a guy who was much taller than him, much more athletic than him, better jujitsu than him. He survived on everything. He's got good cardio. And I don't mean
It
like
is really good. That is his
adequate.
biggest strength, I think.
Yes. I mean, he has cardio like Guida has cardio, like Nate Diaz has cardio.
He took
Like
that Daniel Rodriguez fight, I think, on like 4 days' notice, and he was pushing the most insane pace I've ever seen. Fighting hard, not
after
just
years
striking.
off.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and he had years off
Now,
of
does a
that
heart attack
before that.
change anything?
Did he have a heart attack?
That is what I'm hearing. I don't know the truth to this, but I think he had to pull out of his last fight. Somebody else said that he had a heart attack, and that's why he pulled out of his last fight. So how much does a heart attack play into cardio?
Against Dwight Grant? Whoa.
Not in the fight, not in the
Um,
fight, in training.
I don't know. He's 28. Um,
Is it the
leads
steroids
me to
catching up to
believe
him?
either no. I think if anything, it'd have to be like a cocaine, a meth, a over, something like that.
He
Some
is
sort of
from
like.
LA, baby.
And I'm not saying that you guys that he's on cocaine or meth or anything like that. I'm just saying a healthy 28-year-old, like you would think would be like something majorly weird happened. If they're allowing him to fight again, I would assume that he's cleared and they've corrected that. Um, yeah, I have not heard about that, but I've never seen anything that would lead me to believe that his cardio is not a weapon. And I think he rolls punches well enough. He takes him. Not only does he cover, he takes him on the arms and he rolls. I like Green here, and I don't. I mean, Yohan can win in round one. He absolutely can, you guys. Punchers all have a puncher's chance. I think this is a Pete Rodriguez situation. He's 8-0 for a reason. And I think that reason is just that he hits hard and people don't expect it. And he's a little awkward and he hasn't fought the level of competition. And I think he's going to get a loss on his record.
I agree with you. But I like that over 1.5 play, guys. I actually really love that over 1.5 play.
Man, next up, Alexander Romanov, Chase Sherman.
Did you watch tape this time? Did
And
you watch tape for this one this time?
I did, and that's what I'm
Oh,
gonna talk about this. I'm gonna talk about this because the last fight, it got canceled, it got moved, and I was like, "Oh, I haven't seen Chase Sherman. I don't know. I didn't watch tape." And you're like, "Really? Really?"
are you going to tell
Yeah,
me Chase
really.
Sherman
Uh,
wins?
Chase Sherman is gonna come with the upset, you guys. You heard it here first. -2,000. Bet everything you own on Chase Sherman. Your wife, your kids, everything. Go Chase Sherman. Don't do that. Don't do that. Please. I hope you listen to the rest of this. So I refused to watch Chase Sherman tape for Romanov. All right. I was like, I'm not doing it because this is dumb. But then I watched Chase Sherman tape for Arlovski and Collier, Collier, right?
Mhm.
Um, yeah, Collier, because they're fighting tonight, and both fought Arlovski. So I watched both of them fight Chase Sherman, and out of all the and I'm gonna say, out of all the tape I watched Chase Sherman, the Collier and the Arlovski fight, what I was most shocked about in all of that tape is that he actually had Arlovski hurt.
Yes, he did.
And I was like, "Whoa, he's this bad." And he has the shortest arms of any heavyweight the world has ever seen. He has like a foot-long arm. Like, I don't even know what that is. It's like somebody cut off his bicep and attached his elbow to his shoulder, and that is Chase Sherman's arms. Like, he looks like a snowman. He looks like a snowman put together by a 2-year-old who couldn't find adequate sticks and just like put like nubs of snow arms on their snowman. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Romanov looked like Roy Jones against him, or if Romanov threw a flying armbar, or if Romanov decided that he was going to throw banana peels down and, you know, squid ink and spy hunter oil and everything else, and Chase Sherman just slips over and falls down and wins. Or loses. I'm sorry. I mean, Romanov wins this. I don't think it goes the distance, but they're heavyweights and weird. Who knows? Um, I don't know that it's bettable. I was looking on Bovada and they didn't really have props right now. Romanov is such a big favorite, -2,000, -2,500 on some lines. Have you seen a line like this big in UFC at all?
Is that like a setup question? Because it's like the biggest favorite of all time.
Is it so? Okay, so it is. So I thought I haven't seen anything this big ever. I can't believe that they're giving it to Romanov, but
It
um,
seems crazy. Like it's almost crazier than the Dean Barry one last week. Like at least Dean Barry was fighting like a guy who's not a fighter, not really a fight. Like took some boxing classes, and even Dean Barry lost last week, which was hilarious. I said, take a shot at Mike Jackson. Why not? Even Dean Barry lost last week. Hilarious. And now it's heavyweights on a guy who's got cardio problems versus a guy who's been in the UFC for a long time and at least has some kind semblance of power, trains at a good gym. Like, why not take Sherman? Why not?
Honestly, man, like if you guys have $100 to throw away,
Not 100,
throw it.
$10, $20.
Yeah, it's true. $10. Throw it on them. Throw it in a parlay with that you plan on losing. A $10 parlay with a couple guys you like, maybe an over and under you like. You throw that in there. Expect to lose. It's a lotto ticket. You expect it to lose, but if it wins, great. Romanov should win this, guys. Romanov should win it, but I mean, I
Cardio
can't
makes
even believe these
cowards of
guys.
us all. It always does. Cardio makes
Yeah.
cowards of us all.
Yeah, but man, Chase Sherman isn't.
He's
I
not
don't know.
he's not a marathon runner either.
He's not a. There's nothing that I can get behind Chase Sherman on. The only thing I can get behind him on is this is such insane odds that like I don't even know what we're doing here, folks.
I can't
Stay
wait for him
away
to be
from this.
back in BKFC. That's where I'm really looking forward to seeing him.
With this 1 foot arms, like I don't even know what he'll do there. Just get jabbed to death. All right, we're done here. I watched tape. Like this is fucking ridiculous. We're moving on. All right, next up, man, we've got Daniel De Silva against Francisco Figueiredo. Why don't you tell us about this? We talked about it a little bit earlier. We talked about bad decisions. All right, um, taking girls home from the club and not wearing condoms, like that's a bad decision.
Is it though?
You
It
know,
depends.
I- is it? I mean, possibly. It depends on if you're trying to get them pregnant and if you're hoping for an anchor baby, or if
Listen, I was
with
just
the
in Costa
disease.
Rica. You know what's up?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it depends on if you're going up or down in your own social bracket. I mean, drinking and driving, poor decision. Um, Getting a takedown, winning a round with a minute left in the round and jumping to a heel hook, giving up top position, way worse than either of those. If you guys want to know a bad decision, jumping from top to bottom in a fight is worse than drinking and driving. I have a feeling this is going to come back and haunt me, and I might get canceled for this. Um, so I have to say I'm kidding. But, like, what bad decisions do we have here on these two fighters?
Well, are you referring to Lacerda on that one or to De Silva?
No, Figueiredo. He
Oh,
had Gordon on top, gets a beautiful takedown, is punching him in the guard, and then sits to a heel hook, ankle lock, whatever, spends the next 90 seconds on the ground, gives up the round. Um,
yeah, that's a horrible decision, and hopefully he's learned from that. But I think he's met his stupidity match on this one. Um, Man, that I told you guys earlier, that was one of the easiest ones I ever called. It took me 30 seconds of film. Daniel De Silva doesn't have much film out there, but he's got a few from Brazil way back. That took me 30 seconds of film. I really didn't have much to run on, and I just went, "Oh, Jeff Molina is going to smoke him." And then when you see them come out together, you're like, "Whoa, these are two different weight classes. This kid is athletic. He's just a physical specimen. He's throwing crazy stuff." He looked completely overmatched. Molina did, and then he just won because he's mildly competent and decently skilled, and he won. And I'm the same place with Silva. I don't understand the love for Silva. He's a young kid. Almost every one of his fights is finished in the first round. I already never trust a fighter whose finishes are all in the first round. And then you watch him fight. The kid doesn't know how to fight yet. He really doesn't. Okay, great. He took Molina's back. Awesome. Listen, that happens to everybody in every fight all the time. People, that's part of fighting is dang, he got his back to it. He didn't finish Molina. His jiu-jitsu was off. He made terrible decisions. When he's on that back, you shouldn't jump in the air and then especially go for the choke as you're falling off of him trying to hold it. It was a horrible just technicality on jiu-jitsu, and it was a horrible decision. Then he spent the rest of the round on his back, gassed out, and got knocked out immediately in the second round. You go to his fight pre-UFC, okay? Shoots a beautiful double leg takedown, takes the guy down, immediately ends up on his back. What bailed him out, and this is what I thought you were talking about, was his opponent dropped for a heel hook and gave up top position and then got finished. I couldn't believe that. This kid is getting bailed out. He's making horrible decisions. And cardio wise, guys, every strike he throws is a dynamic kick. It's not like he throws a jab. If He doesn't just settle in, throw a 1 into 2. Everything is a crazy front kick or a spinning kick or a big overhand right. It's never just relaxed. Nothing he does is relaxed. And the very least I can say with Figueiredo is he's almost too relaxed. Sometimes I worry about his volume, but his head movement is honestly pretty incredible. I mean, he's got great range, great management. He sees punches coming so well, and his actual head movement, getting out of the way, is amazing. It's gorgeous. When he does throw, he's got great counters. He likes to hit that little Sean O'Malley slip to the 2. It's beautiful. His trip takedowns are amazing. He does kind of the traditional Muay Thai trip takedowns, and they're awesome. I think his jiu-jitsu is actually pretty good on top when he makes good decisions. So for me, this is I don't want to say an easy one. I think Figueiredo is by far the pick here. People want to get mad at discount Figueiredo. He fought 2 guys that offer nonstop pressure. He had, Jerome Rivera beat him handily 2 rounds, and then Jerome didn't die and kept pressing forward. Malcolm pressed forward the entire fight, and it literally was Figueiredo's fight to lose until he just made a couple stupid decisions. Otherwise, that completely would have been flipped. We'd be seeing a minus 500 line here. I think Figueiredo is leagues above him in just experience, high level experience, having a brother that's that good. I think he's got better takedowns. I think his get-ups are actually really good too. They're very athletic, just like Davidson's. When he decides to stand up, he just kind of explodes out, and he can feel it really, really well. So I trust him on the feet more. I trust him to stand up more. I trust his takedowns more, and I trust his top game more than I trust Silva anywhere.
Yeah, De Silva to me is Jordan Wright of the 125-pound division. He is going to go out there and throw everything, including the kitchen sink, in the first 3 minutes and
They don't
hopes
have kitchen
that
sinks in Brazil.
So, against Molina, you saw him just go out there swinging low kicks, just like the hard, like he's kicking a heavy bag. He was throwing low kicks like a wild man, and then virtually no hands, low kicks, blasting shots, trying to grapple, throwing submissions like crazy. He reminds me of the purple belt in jiu-jitsu tournaments, just throwing everything,
Good
every submission you can
analogy.
get.
If you do
Right?
jujitsu, you
No
know that
defense.
analogy. We always say it's like black belts are so slow and they're the most technical. Brown belts are, the little speed, but very technical. Purple belts know just a little, just enough to be competent, and then they just go. It's nuts.
All gas, all offense the whole time. And you don't that's where you see the flying triangles. That's where you see the wild shit. Um, and on the other side of that, I mean, you've rolled with his brother, Davidson. I've rolled with his brother. Um, he's really good at jujitsu. Honestly, like really good at jujitsu. He just does wild stuff in fights. He just makes bad decisions. His brother kind of does the same thing. But if you actually watch him, I mean, like he will defend takedowns correctly, square his hips, shove the
Very
head
good.
down, and move. He will get back to his feet well. His striking, his head movement is great. His awareness is great. Beautiful check hook, beautiful counter hook, beautiful counter body shot, good power. Um, he is a dog here. You said
Is he
Mazany was your
really?
favorite.
Whoa.
Yes. You said Mazany was your favorite of the night? By far, by far, by far, by far. My favorite of the night is Francisco Figueiredo at plus 106. I cannot fathom that. I mean, De Silva can only win in round 1. The only fight he's ever been out of round 1 is his loss to Molina. Um, I don't I could not fathom that he was that Figueiredo is a dog here. But man, I love him as a dog. Pick him up straight up, however you want.
Look at
Um,
Figueiredo's losses. John Lineker, Luis Nogueira, who was 14-3 at the time. He lost to Eduardo Souza by a split decision, who's 15-4 now. And then he lost to Malcolm Gordon, who is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, strikes. Like, those are not bad losses.
Not at all. And we talk about cardio, you guys. De Silva's cardio is not there. His experience is not there. His fight IQ is not there. it's a fight. Anything can happen, but all signs point to pick fucking Figueiredo up as a dog at plus 106 and do it now before those lines move.
All right. Let's see what do we have next. I will I will do this. I will announce this one. We have Gerald Meerschaert versus Krzysztof Jotko.
Do you want to do this? You want me to do it?
Go ahead. It's all you.
So Meerschaert's 34-14. Jotko's 23-5. And Meerschaert's 34. Jotko is 32. And Meerschaert is on a 3-fight finishing streak, winning streak. Lost to Hamzat, got knocked out in about -4 seconds. Lost to Ian Heinisch, got, knocked out, stopped overhand right. And then he got a guillotine and 2 rear naked chokes. On the other side of that, we've got Jotko, who beat Misha Serkinov by decision. Lost to Sean Strickland, but man, who hasn't at this point? Beat Eric Anders, beat Marc-Andre Barriault, beat Alan, blah, 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 don't know him, and, lost a few in a row. So a little backstory, all right? Jotko, honestly, Jotko is one of the most well-rounded fighters in that division. He's boring as shit, you guys. He's boring. He does not play to win. So
No, he
let's not
only plays
confuse
to
those
win,
things.
not to impress.
Yes, exactly. Just to do a little marginally more than you in random positions in a win. His takedown defense is really good. He actually looks a little undersized to me. I was rewatching his Eric Anders fight, and I'm like, geez, like Anders looks like a heavyweight compared to him. But man, Jotko is fast. He's got a beautiful jab. Doesn't take a lot of damage. His takedown defense is great. His jiu-jitsu defense is great. You don't see him offensively jiu-jitsuing at all. Turns people off the cage well. He does everything well. He does everything good. His thing, the knock on him is his volume, and he tends to play to people's games. He allows the fight to just occur wherever it occurs, and then he just does just enough to win. He does not have a killer instinct. I don't think he could finish a sandwich, let alone a fight. But honestly, he's really good. I think he's probably phenomenal in the gym. I think he's one of those guys where in the gym, nobody can touch him. I think if he ever goes into coaching, he's probably so amazing that he's going to be
He's like
a
a Martin
phenomenal
Kampman kind
coach.
of coach.
Yes. Yes. 100%. His chin holds up. I mean, honestly, outside of volume and like maybe a little offensive wrestling, like where's the knock on this guy? On the other side of that, you have Gerald Meerschaert, who is bigger. His stand-up is awkward, chin in the air. He's slow as shit. His cage wrestling is decent. He does the right stuff in some moments, man. You see him against gosh, I was watching tape on him. I forget one of his last few fights. Got a body lock, whizzer kick the inside, came through and looked great. And then the very next fight or the previous fight, you see him pulling guard and jumping to guard and somebody barely shooting and falling
He
over.
looked way better in the
And
Muradov fight, getting his ass kicked, than he did not getting his ass kicked in the Stoltzfus fight. And it
yeah,
was like, whoa.
it's insane. And Meerschaert, for you guys that love my Homer Simpson analogies, this is one of them. He gets beat up until the other person is just so tired, and then he jumps on something and wins. And I think we saw that the most with that Muradov fight. Muradov won every second of that fight until he lost. I mean, he just threw his load at him and was like, "Oh shit, he didn't die." Now he Leo Santos'd him. I mean, with Guida. I mean, he hurt him, went in for the kill, adrenaline got him. He had nothing left, and then it didn't matter who he was facing. He was going to fall over and die. I mean, if you love Meerschaert here, go for it. I think Meerschaert does not win or lose decisions, man. His fights go before the end of the round. And so really it comes down to, does Meerschaert finish in Jotko? He doesn't finish anything. I mean, his fights are all decisions. No fight has been stopped inside the distance since 2018 with Jotko, and that was when he lost to Tavares. He lost to Uriah Hall before that in 2017. And other than that, man, this dude is a decision king. Win or lose decisions. So you got to go. Does Meerschaert win this fight by submission or and break Jotko's decision in, or does Jotko win by decision and break Meerschaert's um, you know, submissioning or finishes? And I think that's the play here is I think Jotko is going to do enough to win a decision in a boring affair. He's just clean. He knows how to win. He knows how to avoid those movements. And I think Jotko wins a decision here. If you don't like a winner, I think you pick an over 1.5.
No,
I
no, no,
think that's
not
an
one and a
easy
half.
play
You
to.
can get plus money on the fight goes to decision. I mean, how does it end any other way besides that?
Yeah. I mean, plus money on, or you go Jotko by decision. I don't know what the odds are there, but I think Jotko by decision is the only way this fight plays out, unless weird shit happens.
Yeah, I'm with you. When we talked about Tatsuro, the Japanese kid first, excellent jujitsu. I Meerschaert throws a lot of stuff. I do not think his jujitsu is very good. It's just it's just constant Hail Marys. It's just Hail Mary after Hail Mary, pulling guillotines. Even in his last fight, his corner was screaming, "Do not drop for any more guillotines." All I have to say about GM3 is Dustin Stolfutz is the biggest nothing burger ever. I said he does absolutely nothing. Like just nothing. He's fine. He's there and does nothing. Nothing. He just does nothing. And I picked GM3 to win that fight. And I felt like after I won, I needed to give the money back to the books because that's how horrible I felt about that. Stolfo still did nothing and still almost won that fight. He had no takedown defense to show of, no striking. He did nothing in that fight. Still almost won because Meerschaert wanted to pull guillotines and be dog tired and run with his chin up. This is the recipe for an easy Jotko win. Could he finish? Yeah, it's always possible with Meerschaert's chin way up there like that. But I think this fight's going to decision. I think Meerschaert's going to end up on his back. Jocko's going to do enough to not get Hail Mary guillotined. I think he's got good cardio, good fight IQ, good takedown defense. To me, this is decision. Jotko, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it.
Yep. I think you're right. Next up, you guys, we've got Darren Elkins against Tristan Connolly. And Elkins is 37, but Connolly is 36. And I was actually supposed to fight Darren Elkins back in Bodog. All right. Bodog, I was signed to Bodog. I got offered, I had a brain aneurysm, had surgery, took like 2 years off, came back, got offered 3 fight contracts in a week. One with UFC, one with IFL, one with Bodog. And UFC wanted me to fight, Hermes Franca on like 10 days' notice.
Is
And I
he
was
the
like, nah, I'm
rapist?
good. Yes. For 2000 a show and 2000 to win. IFL was offering me a monthly salary, I think like $3,000 a month, $4,000 a month, plus 12,500 a fight. Show win doesn't matter. Just that was that. And I was like, all right, but you had to fight every 6 weeks and you couldn't choose your opponents. You just fought whoever was in front of you. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to have some say in who I fight and the matchups and this and that. And then Bodog was coming out. They offered me 3 fights in 6 months for $15,000 a fight flat. And I was like, all right, done. And this is back in '07, where that amount of money, you guys think, whoa, you're fighting for $15,000. No, you mean I got to fight for 15,000 because, again, the UFC offered me a contract the same week for 2,000 a show and 2,000 a win. And Bodog gave me $15,000. That was like a billion gajillion dollars in fight terms back then. But a week before the fight, the very last sparring session of the camp, I shattered my hand. Not like hairline fracture, shattered it on Seth Baczynski's fucking head. And that was unfortunate. But anyway, that was my Darren Elkins 6 degrees from Santino. And he is fighting Tristan Connolly. Tristan Connolly is 14-7. I would say he's a grappler, but I mean, of course he's a grappler, and his wrestling is okay, and I guess that's where that ends. I mean, if you guys do we even have to talk about Darren Elkins? If you have ever watched MMA, you've seen Darren Elkins. The dude is slow, he's a zombie, he's mechanical, he walks forward, he gets punched, and if you're really dynamic, you finish him with punches, and if you're anything less than really dynamic, he finds his way inside and mauls you. And you can throw every submission at him on the book. He's very hard to finish, and that guy will come and he will not stop. He's like Jason Voorhees. You're running, sprinting as fast as you can, driving as fast as you can. And no matter how fast you go, he's 8 feet just walking behind you. That is freaking Darren Elkins. Connolly on the other side, we saw Pat Sabatini, who might have some of, I mean, I love Pat Sabatini. I really do. His striking is not phenomenal. And he dropped Connolly, and that was a wrap. Um, I cannot imagine Connolly doing something dynamic enough with Pereira. Pereira threw everything at him, and he was just there, and he didn't die.
We do have to say
And so
that's one
he
of the
got
most amazing victories ever because this fight is being contested at 145 pounds. That was at 170 against a guy who's still kind of like a top 15 guy. That was an amazing victory.
And it was on a week notice. I was at that fight. Hunter Azure fought Brad Katana, and we were in Vancouver for that fight. And I watched that in a box, like up after the fights, and was in awe watching it. It was unbelievable. You know, that said, that was a few years ago. That was pre-COVID. I mean, that was a while ago. He fought Sabatini at 145. He did not look good at 145. His chin, his movement, maybe it looks a little bit better now. Even I was watching tape and they said Connolly was walking around about 185 or 189, something like that. And then he was only eating one meal a day so he could drop the weight. And I don't think he looked good. I think Sabatini is not a huge 45er. He's not a small 45er, but he's not a striker. He dropped Connolly. I mean, Connolly, he's not going to get on top. Elkins is going to get on top, and that's the fight. I mean, that's it. I don't. I like Elkins here. His cardio is great. I mean, he's awkward as hell. His striking sucks. But Connolly's no world beater. I mean, he's no Joe Schilling. So I really don't know how Connolly wins this fight.
Out of all the strikers in the world, that's who you chose was Joe Schilling.
Yeah, I don't know why I chose that. I was actually thinking, why did I choose Joe Schilling?
Do you know Danny Bill?
Yeah,
Oh my God.
he's
Okay.
phenomenal.
If you guys if you guys have some free time, go look up Danny Bill highlights on YouTube. My mind was blown. I've never seen an animal like this. I just watch him head kick Ramon Deckers and send him into the next universe. Unbelievable. Whoa, 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 whoa,
That
whoa.
that fight was one of the best ever because Ramon Deckers was the man, and Danny Bill was like, "Hold my beer."
Yeah. Oh my God, that guy is crazy. Oh wow, wow. Sorry guys, that was my like fandom, like the Felix Trinidad Bernard Hopkins fight. I will watch every few months. I love that fight, start to finish, from the intros to the ending. Amazing. And now Danny Bill highlights and Joseph Valtellini. Those are all going to work their way into my free time film watching. Okay. Jeez, what fight are we on? Yeah, did you pick Elkins?
Yes.
I think I'm picking Elkins too, but what I want to say is with great caution of I would not bet this fight. I think this is a horrible, horrible, horrible fight to bet. And I don't think there's an edge or an angle here because the fight could be over like that, or it could be a full decision of Elkins grinding him out. I think Connolly, he does a couple things I don't like. He goes for guillotines. He never gets them, ends up on his back, but he does stand up decently well. Of course, he didn't against Sabatini, but that's a really hard fight to judge. I mean, you're literally talking about the best control guy and back guy in the business. So, hard fight to judge. A lot of transitions with Pereira. Elkins does get tired with that wrestling grind. And then once he separates and backs to the middle, that opens him up for punches all over again. Now you're trusting that chin. If this was pre Cub Swanson, I would say no problem. This is Elkins. But what I worry about now is now that that chin has been cracked, finally somebody sent him over the edge. Is it going to just be every single time? You know, he's 37 now. He's had gym wars. Every fight is just a bloody disaster. It has it cracked yet. I think Tristan Connolly is a little bit crafty, but he doesn't throw very, very hard or very much on the feet. So you're right. I don't think he's dynamic enough to put Elkins away. I would lean Elkins. I would lean Elkins just from what I'm seeing. Like, not that Connolly's shown bad cardio at all, but Elkins' style is just bananas. I mean, just that pressure and the relentlessness. I would lean Elkins, but guys, I would say just don't touch this fight. Have fun with it, if that. But I don't see an edge here any way around it.
Yeah, I mean, with a guy like Elkins, you're always worried about the chin. The age and the chin is a thing. I mean, normally I'm very cautious with things like these. Man, with Connolly, I don't see him as that dynamic. If Elkins is fighting a guy like Terrence McKinney, oh boy, like no way
Even
do
the
you
Cub one,
touch.
that was an easy one for me.
Yeah, and I thought I was on the other side of that. I thought, man, Elkins is durable enough. He grabs it. Cub does so much dumb shit. Um, and Cub is older too, but he's fast and dynamic older. He's like, and but man, Connolly has just never showed me anything that I've seen that makes me think that he can starch a guy. And he's a grappler. His wrestling is not as good. And Elkins is a solid grinder, and he's been there for a long
He's
time.
probably on grinder
Um,
too.
what's that?
Oh, nothing.
So I mean, I wouldn't. This shouldn't be the biggest bet of the night, but I like Elkins here.
All right.
All right, next up we've got Grant Dawson, Jared Flash Gordon. Give us your take on this.
Oh boy, this is a tricky one for me. This is a really tricky one for me because I think there's one guy who's the better MMA fighter, and there's one guy who does the one thing really, really well. In the past film studies, been really critical of Grant Dawson. His wrestling's a little bit juvenile, not juvenile, but it's kind of like just very folk style, drop steps, shoots from kind of distance. But he's a dog, man. He is just a straight up dog. His chain wrestling is actually good. Once he gets a hold of the legs, once he gets in there, that's when the wrestling begins. It's not where it ends. It's where it begins. And I really like that and I admire that about him. He'll shoot on a double, doesn't work. He'll come up to the high crotch. That doesn't work. He'll hit the trip and he will do whatever it takes to get you down. And just like I was saying before, the wrestling is becoming so much less of a thing. Uh, we saw that in Jared Gordon's last fight. Joe Selecki couldn't hold him down after the first round, right? Once he did get his back taken, and that was really unfortunate. But once they were there, he couldn't hold him down. What really impressed me about Grant Dawson was none of his other fights. It was actually the Ricky Glenn fight because Ricky Glenn actually did such a phenomenal job of counter wrestling. He was constantly butt dragging, hitting switches, hitting what do you call that? Truck series?
Chest lock.
Chest locks.
His chest lock throws again and
It
again.
was amazing what Ricky Glenn was doing. And guess what? Grant Dawson followed his hips like a freaking maniac, was just a complete dog in that fight. And he peeled off 2 rounds. Now, did he get tired doing it? Yes, 100%. Easily. Easily. I still think he won that fight weirdly. Watching it back, I don't think that was enough for a 10-8 in that last round. I think he should have won the fight. But Grant Dawson's good, man. I don't think his striking is good at all. But like you've always told me, know what you're good at and just go out and do that. Grant Dawson knows what he's good at and just does that. His jiu-jitsu is actually pretty clean for the wrestling style you would think he would present. But Jared Gordon, I think, is a very, very, very complete, kind of like what you were saying earlier, a very well-rounded fighter. In the Selecki fight, my memory had served me wrong. I thought he got blast doubled and then made a mistake, and Selecki took his back with this like beautiful jiu-jitsu, and that's not really what happened. It was kind of like a weird kick, and he fell, and then Selecki jumped on his back, almost like the Peter Yan fight with Aljo, right? Gave up the round. That's a really hard thing, is to get out of back control with a guy that's that level of jiu-jitsu. After that, look clean. His stand-ups are awesome. He's got great fight IQ. He's got great cardio. I think he makes so many correct and right decisions, and I give him the striking edge by a pretty decent margin. So where do we go here? Is it the dog that's going to peel off a couple rounds, or is it Jared Gordon, who I think is by far the more complete mixed martial artist? Just on judging criteria and fight IQ alone and cardio alone, I'm going to give this one to Jared Gordon. Really, my favorite play here is going to be the over. I think these are two. It's hard to call Grant Dawson a veteran, but they're two veterans. I think this is probably going to go to decision. But on judging criteria, on game planning, fight IQ, I think Jared Gordon's going to get it done here.
The the interesting thing about to me, there's two interesting things about this fight, and that is the Ricky Glenn fight, how tired Dawson was going into that third round. And he gave up that third round. But I have to agree with you 100%. Dawson won that fight. Like, Ricky Glenn won round 3, but not enough for a 10-8.
I had
Like, that
money
was
on Ricky
not
Glenn, and then watching that back, I'm like, man, I should not have won that. Not
that
voided that
was
bet, you know?
yes, like, that was insane because, like, I mean, Ricky Glenn won the round 100%. Man, like, he was not hurting Dawson. He was not, like, rocked. It's not like he dropped him. Like, Dawson shot, pulled guard, pulled half guard, and that was kind of it. And
You know, the
man,
fight that
that is
really
wow.
concerned me with Dawson was actually the Julian Erosa fight. I was just trying to find a fight like, that I don't know what I was looking for, but I watched the Julian Erosa fight. He was so dog tired in round 2, and all Erosa did was the basics, pushing on the head, scooting the legs out, and he stood up. And once they stood up, he gave Dawson hell. He beat the hell out of him on the feet. And Dawson didn't even, no hands up, didn't protect himself, and Erosa's just looping punches, just cracking that chin.
See, like Dawson, he gets tired, but he is solid for 2 rounds. He has 200% rounds in him, and he falls off hard in that third round. Like, that's no thing. The other issue is Jared Gordon's takedown defense is bad to me. I do not like it at all. I am very unimpressed. He is a high school wrestler who learned jujitsu and realized, "Oh, I can jump to a guillotine," and that's so much less energy than defending a takedown. And I think his hands are good. I think his fight IQ is good, like, in the sense that he will get back up if he doesn't get stuff. But, I I mean, he has not won a fight in the UFC. I think his first win in the UFC was a finish. Other than that, they're all decisions. I mean, even against Bill Algeo was a decision before that in CFFC. All Dawson has to do is win 2 rounds, which I think he easily does, and then not get finished in the third round, and Jared Gordon doesn't finish people in the third round. So Dawson's solid for round 1. He's solid for round 2. His striking is not great by any means, but it's not bad. He does stuff adequate. His striking is serviceable to get him inside the clinch and go. Jared Gordon's wrestling defense is not serviceable. I think it's horrible. I think he stands up well, he defends well, but his defense, I think, is very lackluster.
But do we care about
I
that?
think
Look at Dustin
what's
Jacoby.
that?
Do we care about that though? Look at Dustin Jacoby, right? He's a guy we talk about all the time. Is his pure takedown defense that great? No, it's not. But he's standing back up every time. And honestly, that's probably more energy than stuffing the initial shot.
Oh, I agree. But Jacoby knows how to finish. Jared Gordon doesn't. He hasn't finished a fight in the UFC in how many fights? I think Grant Dawson wins round 1 and 2, tires out. Flash Gordon wins round 3, but can't finish him, and I think the decision goes to Dawson. Um, if if Gordon could show me something where he had some finishing ability in that third round, a guillotine, a takedown, some power shots, something, I'm in. But he hasn't. He has not shown his ability to finish a fight. And I think Dawson gets up on the scorecards 2-1. I think goes to a decision is an easy
I think
route.
so
Over
too.
1.5, over 2.5 is easy. I think Dawson gets a win. And this comes down to Grant Dawson has lost once in his career, and that's to Hugh Pulley. And that was in 2016.
Oh, that was a
He's
bad one too. It
17.
was a really that was a really controversial fight. It shouldn't have been
That was a
stopped
weird
that
one.
early.
He's 17-1. The dude knows how to win. I think he's just getting better. I think he's getting smarter. I don't think we've seen the best out of Grant Dawson. And I'm no bit. I'm not like banging down the doors, screaming Grant Dawson over here. But I am in this fight. I like him in this fight. I like him convincingly in this fight. I think he's getting better and better. I think he wins 2-1 rounds, and I think it's an easy call to go over 1.5, over 2.5, probably to a decision.
Okay, I'm actually going to change mine. I am with you. I can see him grinding out those 2 rounds. I think I said that earlier, and I think the only thing I said was like the judging criteria. If Gordon lands more punches, even if it's on the way down, I'm going to switch with you. I think Dawson does get it done here, and primarily too because Jared Gordon's been used as kind of the stepping stone for a lot of the prospects. They're trying to.
Yes. Yep. I think you're right. I think you're right. He is a guy, he's a gatekeeper. If you can beat him, you deserve to be in the upper echelon. If you can't, all right, you're going back down. Next up, we've got Andrei Fili, and gosh, Joe Anderson Brito. Um, Man, this is a weird one. Fili is a big favorite, not a massive favorite. Fili is minus 250. Brito's plus 200. It's a decent favorite. It's nothing crazy, but it's decent. Um, Andre Fili is fast. He moves, he throws punches and bunches. He has a really, really good right middle kick and right high kick. Does not throw a lot of low kicks. Um, he missed the checking kicks day at Team Alpha Male because I don't think he's ever checked a kick in his life. And he's got the skinniest twig legs you've ever seen, and that hurts him a little bit. Um, he's in your face. He has good cardio. He's a scrambler. He's there. Um, I his gosh, his technical abilities are nowhere near as good as his fight abilities. And for you people out there, what I mean by that is like you get a guy and you let him throw a 1-2, and it looks atrocious. But he reads well and he moves well and he sees the stuff, and you throw a punch at him and he moves out of the way. It's not great. His hands aren't high. He doesn't slip. He uses too much energy to do it, but he gets out of the way and he sees it coming. And that's what I mean. He sees things. His eyes are better than his actual technical abilities. Watch him throw a jab, a cross, a hook, a kick, a shot, any submission. They're not technically sound. Like you would not use him as a instructional criteria. Don't go on YouTube and try and learn how to throw a 1-2 from Andre Fili. It's not the way to do it. But he moves way better than his technical ability. On the other side, you have Brito, who's a little stiff, but he guard is high, throws good low kicks, throws a good. I want to say a 1-2, but I mean it is a 1-2, but it's an overhand. He kind of jabs, throws an overhand. Will throw in the pocket, decent takedowns, decent clinch. Cardio is a little bit to be desired, but in his, I watched that Bill Algeo fight back, and I remember Brito really looking bad, and I don't think he looked that bad. He got some great takedowns. Algeo's really tough to deal with. Algeo's high crotch lift double leg defense was phenomenal. And Algeo is not a stand and trade in the pocket guy. He's a touch and move and touch and move and touch and move. He manages distance well, and he's an awkward guy to fight. Um, this is one, you guys. I'm going to tell you guys, do not follow my lead here because I don't know what it is. Andre Fili is the favorite. He should win. The volume and the cardio alone are something that are, I mean, those are things I like his volume, I like his cardio, but he gets hit a lot in the pocket. And Brito has a good chin and he has better fundamentals and he will trade in the pocket and he will push the fight to the clinch and find some takedowns. And I I wouldn't be surprised to see Brito exchange with Andrei Fili and Andrei Fili get clipped. And I don't know that he gets finished, but I think if he clips him a little bit and he gets a takedown and he's not too tired, I think he can steal this fight. I mean, it kinda I don't know that it's a smart bet, and I would not tell you honestly, if you guys are on the fence on this, leave it alone, leave it alone. If you guys, for whatever information I can give you, if you like it one way or the other, go for it. I'm not gonna put this on any of my big bets. I would not be surprised again, smart money is Andre Fili here. I would not be surprised to see Brito get the upset here.
That is really interesting you say that. And I don't like to agree with you. Actually, I love to be a contrarian to you. But my first thought when I saw this matchup was the exact same thing. I feel like I was probably the only person in the world in the last matchup going, oh, Bill Algeo is going to win this. Bill Algeo
You
won.
were. I
That's
I
it.
fought you tooth and nail. I did not think Algeo was gonna win that. I thought Brito wins it. I couldn't believe it, and Algeo and I don't think it was because Brito was bad. I think Algeo showed really big
Algio's good.
improvements.
I think Algio is really, 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 really good. I really do. He does a lot of things really well, and it's a lot of tricky stuff. He's an ultra veteran, and that's what I said in the last fight. Then I fast forwarded to this one, and I didn't get that same feeling. Now the blueprint is pretty much the same. I mean, Fili is that longer, taller guy. Has shown actually pretty decent takedown defense in every fight except for the Bryce Mitchell fight, right? I actually didn't think that. I thought he was just getting ragdolled in every fight. In my mind, Fili is a much better striker than he actually is. He's like you said, he's a little bit lazy, kind of keeps his chin out and like doing the bait you in thing, but never actually like moves his head when people swing on him and he gets hit a ton. So my first thought was, man, if this is a swinging affair, if they're standing there trading in the pocket, it's just who lands first. And I think Brito's probably got more power. I think Fili's probably more speed and Brito's more power. So that same like feeling that I got, like I'll die on this hill, like I felt with Algio, I don't feel that with Fili. I really don't. And Fili has let me down time and time and time and time again. Um, all conventional wisdom to me says Fili. I hated so much of Brito's tape pre UFC. I mean, some of it was comical how bad his tape was. I mean, giving up positions and doing these silly things. It is horrible. His fight on Contender Series, he really lucked out that he got a guy that was in love with his own jiu-jitsu and refused to do anything besides lay on his back. The Algio fight, that was a tough fight. And like you said, he performed above the level that I expected. I thought Algio was going to starch him. I thought 1, 2 rounds he has it in him, and then Algio turns up the heat and it's over. And he'd get stuffed out on a few takedowns. I was impressed with him in that fight. I'm still going to pick Fili. I'm still going to pick Fili, and here's why. His hips are good, decent takedown defense. And him taking down Bermudez to me was really impressive. I know that fight was a long, long time ago, but Dennis Bermudez is a good wrestler. And he blast doubled him, head in the chest, took him down. He outpointed him on the feet. He was beautiful in that fight and in a lot of fights. He's been very, very fast. I'm gonna trust the like you said, I think it's wise to avoid this one. And again, I don't know if there's a good edge here. I could see it finishing early, them trading in the pocket. I could see it going to a decision. Depends on the style of fights for each guy. I I lean Fili. I lean Fili here. Just cardio, fight IQ, striking, just experience. I'm gonna lean Fili, but I could definitely see an upset.
Yeah, I am with you 100%. All conventional wisdom says Fili, and then I go, "Man, I wouldn't be surprised to see Brito get the upset." This is one of those ones I'm not gonna touch. I don't think, it's like the first fight. Candelario, I'm like, "Man, there's too many other spots on this card that" Figueiredo is a dog here, you guys, like, why are we betting Fili and Candelario? I wisdom says Fili. I wouldn't be surprised I wouldn't be surprised to see Fili just wreck Brito or be wrecking Brito and then get caught and clipped. Um, Decision, submission, TKO. I don't know. I say avoid this one. Watch the fight. Have fun for once.
Should be a fun fight, honestly. Two guys that like to throw down.
Yeah. Um, Man, so next up we've got Jake Collier uh, in our co-main event against Andrei Arlovski. And I'll let you lead with this. I just, before I get into there, I mean, is this, and you'll talk about it, as you're going. Andrei's 43. He doesn't really like to fight anymore. He likes to win competitions and win money. Like, at what point do we see Andrei stop fighting? Do you think it's soon? Do you think it's after this? Do you think it's, down the road?
I mean, if
I'm
he wins
curious
this
about
one,
that.
he'll be what, 6-1 in his last 7 fights. I mean, that's crazy. And you're getting paid a couple $100,000 to fight every few months. What, milk that thing until you're done. I mean, he's what else he gonna do? Cocaine in New Mexico.
Well, tell us about these two. Let me know your thoughts.
Well, okay. So, admittedly, this is where my taping. I kind of ran out of time, guys. I'm getting ready for a fight too, so I got to get a little training in. We had somebody skip out on jujitsu class, so I had to teach instead of train. I'm sorry, instead of tape study. Just kidding. But this is where I fell off a little bit. But I know these two very, very well. To me, it's as simple as this. As long as there's no trickery, there's no craziness here. I think Arlovski has really slick, really clean striking. And for as heavyweight as Collier is, I think he's got slick, good striking. The difference is, I think Arlovski can do it for 3 rounds, and I think Collier can do it for 1 round. I think you know Chase Sherman made Collier look like a D1 national champion mixed with a jiu-jitsu world champion all in one fight mixed with a Dagestani. I don't think that same is going to happen with Arlovski. I think he's too crafty. He's got his takedown defense on the cage is too good, and he knows the style of fight that he likes. I don't think that Jake Collier is going to get as tired as we have seen him in the past. So really, it's just who's a little bit craftier, who's a little bit slicker. Honestly, with all the love on Arlovski this week, I know us liking somebody means nothing, like almost nothing to the actual fight itself. It's got to play out the way it plays out. But I wouldn't be surprised to see this be the fight that Arlovski goes down. If Chase Sherman can rock Arlovski, why can't Collier rock Arlovski? He's a better striker than him, I think. The style of fight favors decent cardio, right? If Arlovski's going to have his back to the wall the whole time, nobody's pressing Collier, nobody's wrestling him, nobody's making him work. Why can't he go 3 rounds? Why can't he outpoint him? You know what? Let's go Collier on this one.
I am so glad you said that because, I mean, Orlovsky is the better fighter. And he is. Times a million, times everything on the planet, every which way it goes. He's 43. His chin is not good. And he's Jotko. This is Jotko. He does not fight to win. He fights to outpoint, and he doesn't want to engage. And I think this fight comes down to, and Collier's a solid striker. He moves well. He covers well. He doesn't overexpose himself. I mean, he's solid. He's no world beater at all. The thing is that Collier will actually go and try and win a fight instead of jab his way for 3 rounds. And I think, like you said, Sherman rocked Andrei Arlovsky, and I think Collier can do the same thing. This matters. Two things matter here. Can Collier just swing and rock Arlovsky early and hurt him? And if he can, already wins. If he cannot, does he have the cardio to win round 2? Because he's probably going to win round 1. He's probably going to lose round 3 if it goes to a decision. And does he have enough to win round 3? I think it's funny because when we saw him against Tom Aspinall, his heavyweight debut, he actually looked a lot thinner. Like, you saw him in his last fight. Gosh, who was that? Um, oh, that was Sherman. You see him against Sherman. You see him against Carlos Felipe. And man, he looks like he has been eating the Twinkies, and he looks a little fatter,
But you know what's
but he
weird is
also
he
looks a
weighed
little
in the
bit
exact same 264 for all those fights.
really. He looks flabbier in his most recent outings, but as bad as he looks, I think his cardio is better, as weird as it is. So, I mean, this is a Darren Elkins thing. This is Darren Elkins right here. Is does Arlovski's chin hold up? I mean, Orlovsky's losing to those guys who are dynamic. All right, he's losing to the Tom Aspinalls. He's losing to the Rosenstrucks. Um, you know, it's so funny. I was right about to say I think Collier gets the upset, and then on the same logic that I'm using with Darren Elkins, that I don't think Connolly is dynamic enough to put him away. I think I've got to say that with Orlovsky. Going into this all day, I was thinking, yeah, I think Collier's going to find the upset. He's going to find his chin. He's going to find the movement. And I think if he was just a little bit faster, a little bit more dynamic, hit a little bit harder, then I think that he would get it. And if I'm going to use the same logic on Darren Elkins, I think Elkins and Orlovsky both win or lose together. It's kind of that same logic. Um, I don't think Collier is the guy who's going to touch Orlovsky's chin to really put him out like a Rosenstruck will, like a Aspinall will. He will probably wobble him, but Orlovsky's vet enough to hang on to him and control him. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if Collier touched his chin, but I think Orlovsky's going to win the decision.
You know what? I didn't get to tape this much, and I'm going to, guys, go sign up for the Patreon, and we're gonna keep you posted all week. Uh, I I think I love Collier here. I think I love. Okay, and here's why. Hear me out on this one, right? So we watched the Carlos Felipe fight, right? I thought Felipe won that fight. I've said this a million times, guys. The style in which Arlovski fights is not favorable to the judges. He is winning these split decisions against Jared Van Der. Jared Van Dera is the slowest ogre of all time. And I told you guys this, that last fight. I said, listen, that style of fighting with his back on the fence and just letting somebody press forward, it's going to depend on the judges and the commission, all that kind of stuff. Eventually, it's not going to go his way. I think Collier is a better striker than Jared Van Dera is. I think he throws more. He has a bigger repertoire of strikes than Carlos Felipe. Carlos Felipe throws a 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. He just spams it over and over and over again. And weirdly, I thought he won that fight. Jared Van Dera is a slow ogre with decent boxing, nothing great. One is, Arlovski got away with a split decision on that one. So why can't Collier, who used to be a middleweight, he still kind of glides on his feet and he's got good striking at least for a round. Why can't he peel off two? Nobody's going to be pressing him, right? Where he's going to get dog tired. He's only going to get as tired as he lets himself get. But in all those moments of inactivity, why can't Collier win those minutes? He's backing Arlovski up against the fence the whole time and making Arlovski run. So you're banking on a 43-year-old chin and a bad style of fighting to win decisions, right? Everyone has been close, even though he's been the better fighter than both Felipe and Vandera. So, guys, I might be going Collier pretty decent here.
I mean, it's funny. That was my original spot. You guys, was Collier finds a chin. He throws heaters and wants to actually win a fight. Um, Again, I think we're going to see a kind of a Tanner Bozier, Andrei Arlovski fight here. Bozier wants to pull the trigger, but can't quite find the position. You saw Collier fight Carlos Felipe, and Felipe is a volume guy. Felipe is a guy that will just throw and throw and throw. He's in your face and going. And even Collier fought Felipe, and Felipe is there throwing. So you get those two types of fights. Orlovsky is not a guy who's going to fight you that way. It's the Andre Fili Brito fight, but then you have Algio. Algio is a guy that moves away and doesn't engage versus a guy like Fili who's going to stay in the pocket and throw. Andre is good at not doing anything and nullifying people. He's B Hop. I mean, he's Bernard Hopkins. He's old. He is cagey. He knows how to not fight, and he knows how to make people fight his
Come
fight.
on, don't say that about
Um,
B-Hop. He always fights.
yeah, but his later years, he was a crafty vet, and he knew how to crafty vet some
Always
shit.
crafty vet,
I
but he
think
went out on a
Arlovski is
shield.
gonna craft yeah. On his shield, out of the ring, onto the concrete.
Sad.
Um, yeah, I don't love Arlovski here. I kinda like him just because, um, styles. And, with that, we've got our main event, Rob Font, Marlon Vera. I know you haven't done a ton of tapes. Why don't you tell us your thoughts first, just without too much tape off the top of your head. You Patreoners out there, don't worry. Brandon will watch tape before he gives his picks, and you know, even I watched a good amount of tape here, and I'm still going to go back and watch tape and stock Instagrams. And you guys know our picks aren't coming out until Friday anyway. So we'll definitely do even more diligence before we send them out. But for you early people, you guys want to get your bets in early, take our thoughts, with or without a grain of salt. So what do you got here?
Well, I have a really tough time betting main events anyways. I really don't like betting main events. I don't really like betting 5 rounders to begin with. Uh, I do think I like this fight, and I do think I like Rob Font. Rob Font to me, first of all, he's kind of old. Like he's decently old. He's a lot older than I thought that he was, right? You always think of him as kind of like this young up and coming guy. I think he's what, 30, 33, 34, something like that. He's been around the
Hmm.
game. I think he's got great coaching. I think he comes from a really good gym. I love New England Cartel, right? We love Calvin Cater. Um, I am so biased towards Rob Font. I love Rob Font. I think that Chito Vera, let me look at his record really quick. We're going to do this kind of breakdown on the fly here. And at least I can be honest with you guys. A lot of these videos, people pretend to watch film and then give you this like really like, we're in on this one. Guys, I didn't get a fresh set. I've done plenty of film on both of them in the past, but I didn't get a fresh set. Okay. Marlon Vera was losing the entire Frankie Edgar fight until he didn't. Davey Grant, that was a great fight. Came on late, lost the Aldo fight. Sean O'Malley was a weird one. Song Yadong. He's good. The problem. Here's the difference I see between them. Chito Vera is arrogant, very arrogant. I think he thinks he's so much better than he is, and I think he doesn't think he needs to win minutes. He'll stand there and let somebody throw their best shots, and he'll show how tough he is. I'm going to eat these and keep coming forward, and I'll come on late when your dog tired. Rob Font's not going to get tired. Rob Font is a dog. He's a New England cartel. He's got a beautiful jab, and he's got all the tools in the boxing to keep Chito away. I, I love Rob Font. I love his fight IQ. I think that guy is extremely smart. I think he's one of the best in the world. He had a war with Aldo. If he didn't get rocked, he probably wins that fight just on volume. And who outnumbers Aldo like that, or just that dominantly? I still thought Aldo destroyed him, but what a great fight. I'm completely biased here. I think that Rob is hungry and Rob wants it and wants to show the world how good he is. I think Chito is very arrogant. He knows how good he is, and he's okay losing minutes just to show people I'm the man here. So my completely biased, non-fresh take is Rob Font. Honestly, probably by a mile.
It's funny you say that because Cheeto comes on strong late. All right. We have not seen him in a ton of 5 round fights, but he doesn't really win round one. He's kind of there. And then round two, people get tired. And then, he really comes on round two, round three. Like you said, Rob Font doesn't get tired. He's a cardio guy, but he comes on pretty solid round one. I mean, he's there to fight from right out of the gate. The wrestling, I mean, where's the wrestling? I mean, we saw Chito Vera attempt to wrestle Aldo, and that backfired like hell. Um, I don't know if he really meant to wrestle him or if he was trying to take a page out of everybody else's book, put him against a fence, clinch him, hang on him, and tire him out. But what we did see was Rob Font go in and take Aldo down round one, which I don't know
He's got the
when
best
we've
takedown
seen.
defense ever. Chad Mendez couldn't take him. Nobody could take him down.
Yeah, and Font just timed it well, dragged him down. I mean, Aldo got back up, but Font got him down. It's more than we can say for a lot of other better fighters, better wrestlers anyway. I mean, we've got that beautiful jab, good fight IQ, really good jujitsu. Rob Font has too, and Chito has really good jujitsu too. I've seen him on Instagram working with the Mendez brothers. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe he's no longer with Oyama. I believe they had a falling out. He's training jujitsu with the Mendez brothers, and he is training boxing with
Perillo.
yeah, with Perillo at Ruka.
If he's with the
And
Mendez
the
brothers,
thing
that
with
makes me feel a lot better because I know he was doing the 10th Planet BS for a long time. And I can't for the life of me get around on 10th Planet because it's just bad decisions for MMA constantly. We saw it with Alima Lay McFarland last weekend. It's just constant bad decisions. But the thing that I worry about too is the Mendez brothers were also guard players. They're not MMA guys. They're pure jujitsu, and to me, they're my idols. They're my holy grail. Hodger Gracie, the Mendez brothers, but they are just back players. Anyways, go ahead.
yeah, so I think jujitsu I think is going to cancel itself out. I think cardio is going to cancel itself out. I think they're both cardio machines. I think jujitsu is good. Wrestling, I think, is going to be almost negligible. They may or may not go for some takedowns. I think clinch is going to go to Marlon or to Chito, and I think so that is definitely going to go there. Chito is just training with Perillo, and Perillo is not an MMA coach. He's a boxing coach. And we've seen it with a lot of his guys. If they have that MMA experience, great. But otherwise, who's working his MMA game plan? Who's working his cage wrestling? Who's working what? And so, you look at Chito lately, and all you see is mitts on Instagram with Perillo. Not that it means anything, because Instagram does not mean what everybody's training, but he's probably mainly focusing on his boxing with Perillo and ignoring the rest of his game. And I don't know that he's going to outbox Rob Font in this short amount of time. I think he's got a really good low kick. We saw it with the O'Malley situation, but Rob Font switches stances. I really think that this fight comes down to two things, and that's boxing. And I think Rob Font is going to win the boxing. I think he's going to win the boxing exchanges. I think if Marlon is going to win any sort of stand-up affair, it's got to be in the clinch, and there's got to be elbows and knees involved. He's got to make it ugly. He's got to make it a dog fight. But really, I think this fight comes down to coaching, and it's Tyson Chartier and the New England Cartel and Jason Perillo, and we've kind of seen Jason Perillo's guys. Look at Mackenzie Dern the other day. I mean, is she boxing? Is she pulling guard? What is she doing with Tisha Torres? I mean, I don't know that that was a really good game plan there.
She had no
I
idea. And
think
then
if
the one thing that worked for her, she didn't even do in the third round. She went back to what was not working before. Like literally pulling guard was her saving grace. And if I was in that corner, I'd say, you pull guard again. And I would never tell anybody in the world that, but you pull guard again and refuse to do it. So you're dead on that point.
100%, and if Mackenzie came to me today and said, "I want you to train me," I wouldn't have her throw a damn punch in a long time. We would be wrestling. We would be cage wrestling. She is amazing at jujitsu. Her jujitsu is some of the best in the world, but if she can't get it to the ground, what good does it do you? And Perillo's having her box, and he's probably having Chito box.
And they're
And
boxing each
I
other.
just
That's
don't.
his training partner.
Yeah,
He's training with
and
Tabitha
and I
Ricci and
like
Mackenzie Dern. Awesome.
man. Look at Calvin Cater's game plan against Giga Chikadze. It's beautiful. I mean, these guys have really good. Even Font's game plan against Aldo was really good. It didn't work out. Man, it's good. I think it comes down to coaching. And it comes down to boxing versus clinching. I think Font wins a boxing situation. I think Chito wins a clinch situation. And then it just depends on what is your coach telling you to do and what type of game plan did your coach have for you. I'm going with the New England Cartel here. I'm not dying on my shield here, but I like Font. If you guys are really wanting a good bet, over 2.5, over 3.5. These guys, I think are both durable. They're both good enough. I think this goes probably to a decision. But I'm leaning Font here.
I think we hit another good show. 2 hours in the books.
2 hours in the books, um, talking fights, shirtless Brandan. Um, Check out the Patreon. Go to mybookie.ag. And other than that, man, you guys, there are some really good spots on this card, and then there are a couple to stay away from. Manage that equally.
All right, time for bed.
Time for bed. Well, as always, you guys subscribe, like, share, and comment. We love hearing your comments and interacting with you guys. So let us know your thoughts, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys.